annual celebration of Korean American Day. My name is Hannah Kim, founder of Remember 727 and the official ambassadress of the Korean War Veterans Memorial Foundation, former Chief of Staff and Communications Director to Korean War veteran, Congressman Charles B. Rangel. I've had the honor of supporting this event since my working days in Congress for almost a decade, because it is a very special day for all of us to commemorate the first day Koreans immigrated to the United States on January 13th, 1903. Today, we are now 2 million strong and successful in every industry, with 4 Korean Americans representing us in the United States Congress. I am very pleased to welcome you to join me in celebrating this special day for the next hour. I would like to first introduce Mr. Sae-Gwon Chung, the founder and senior advisor of Korean American Foundation of Greater Washington, to provide opening remarks.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to welcome and greeting to all of you celebrating the 16th annual Korean American Day. At this special day, we wish to honor members of the U.S. Congress who co-sponsored and passed the Korean American Day resolution in December 2005, designating January 13th of each year as Korean American Day. On this historical occasion, I'm pleased to extend my sincere appreciation to all of you attending the Korean American Day celebration. May God bless the United States of America and the Republic of Korea. Thank you. 사랑하고 존경하는 여러분, 오늘은 우리 한인의 이민 선배님들이 1903년 1월 13일 미국 하와이 사탕수수 농장에 도착한 지 118주년이 되는 날로서 지난 2005년 12월 미 연방 상하원에서 코리안 아메리칸 데이 미주한인날로 제정 공포한 역사적인 날입니다. 제16회 미주한인날 기념 축전 행사에 온라인으로 참여하신 여러분 진심으로 환영하며 감사드립니다. 2021년 신축년 새해 건강하시고 복 많이 받으십시오. 감사합니다.
Thank you so much. Now, tenor Song Won Nam will sing the anthems of the United States and South Korea. Mr. Nam is a professional tenor who has performed numerous operas with the Washington National Opera, a professor of music at George Mason University, founder of the Christian Classical Singers, and artistic director of the Washington Concert Society. He will perform the Star-Spangled Banner, followed by 애국가, the South Korean national anthem. Now at this time, please join us for a moment of silence for all the people who lost their lives or were wounded by the current epidemic. Join us for a moment of prayer by Reverend Bum Lee, pastor of Washington Manna Church and chair of the Council of Korean Churches of Greater Washington.
살아계신 아버지 하나님, 코비드-19 팬데믹 가운데에서도 우리를 지켜주신 은혜를 감사드립니다. 또한 이 저녁에 16회 미주한인의 날 기념 축전을 열 수 있도록 인도하여 주셔서 감사를 드립니다. 비록 우리가 온라인으로 행사를 진행하지만 많은 분들이 참여하셔서 성공적으로 기념 축전을 잘 마칠 수 있도록 인도하여 주시옵소서. God the living Father, thank you for your grace which saved us even in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. Also, I thank you for leading us to hold the 16th Korean American Day celebration this evening. Although the event is held online, please guide us so that many people can participate and successfully complete the celebration. 하나님은 우리 미주 한인들을 사랑하셔서 1903년 1월 13일에 102명이 하와이에 첫 발을 디딘 이후로 성실하게 살도록 지켜주셨습니다. 특별히 이번에 미주 한인 4분이 하원 의원으로 진출하게 해주신 은혜를 감사드립니다. 이분들에게 의정 활동을 잘 감당할 수 있는 지혜를 주여 허락하여 주시옵소서. God loves Koreans and has guided us to live faithfully since the first immigrants set foot in Hawaii on January 13, 1903. In particular, thank you for the grace that led 4 Korean Americans advances to the House Representatives. Please give them the wisdom to manage their legislative activities well. 한국 전쟁에 하나님께서는 미국을 포함한 16개국의 군인들을 보내주셔서 우리 대한민국을 지켜주셨습니다. 특별히 미국은 36,940명의 전사자를 내며 한국을 지켜주셨죠. 미국은 엄청난 희생을 치르며 한국을 도와준 진정한 우리의 우방입니다. 진정으로 미국에 감사하며 살 수 있는 우리가 되기를 원하옵니다. In the Korean War, God sent soldiers from 16 countries, including the United States, who protected Korea. In particular, the United States defended Korea with their lives of 36,940 dead. The U.S. is a true friend who helped Korea with great sacrifices, Lord. We truly appreciate America and the opportunities we've built to live here. 이 저녁의 행사를 잘 준비한 모든 임원과 참가자들에게 지혜를 허락하여 주셔서 은혜롭게 마칠 수 있도록 인도하여 주시옵소서. Please give wisdom to all the executives and participants who are well prepared, graciously complete tonight's event. We pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Now I am very pleased to introduce Mr. Albert Kim, CPA, our event chair, who is the owner of AK and Associates, a major CPA firm in the greater Baltimore region, and is the president of Sejong Scholarship Foundation of America.
I want to sincerely welcome everyone to the 16th Korean American Day celebration in 2021. I'm also an immigrant from Korea. I came to the United States in 1975 with my parents when I was 11 years old. I now manage successful CPA practice in Maryland. I'm also president of Sejong Scholarship Foundation of America, which gives out scholarship money to Asian American from high school students to graduate students. I have a great deal of respect for the first Korean Americans, immigrants who arrived in the United States 103 years ago. I'm pretty sure they had much tougher than I did when I came. I'm sure that 2020 has been most unusual and difficult years for everyone for many reasons. I have lived in America for over 45 years, have never faced this type of challenge. The pandemic in some ways is worse than a war. We're fighting an invisible enemy, COVID-19, which exists within us and silently targeting us. Even in the midst of this crisis, our human spirit is enduring and rises to the occasion. Korea American Day is a very good example of this. This event could have been easily canceled because of the pandemic, yet it has not deterred us from moving forward with the celebration. I want to congratulate and thank Michelle Lee, President of the Korean American Foundation of Greater Washington, and her dedicated colleagues and friends for their hard work and to help make this event possible. And I'm honored to be the 2021 event chairperson, and more importantly, to be the participant in the Greater Korean American experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much again. And now, I would love to introduce to you President Michelle Lee, the current president of Korean American Foundation Greater Washington, who is also the co-chair and co-founder of Baltimore Changwon Sister City Committee. She has directed numerous cultural events with performers and artists from the local community and from South Korea. And I can personally tell you she worked tirelessly to make this event happen. So thank you so much.
안녕하세요. 제16회 미주한인의 날 축전 행사에 참여하여 주시고 온라인 생방송으로도 관람하시는 모든 분들을 환영합니다. We are pleased to welcome all of our friends and distinguished guests to the 16th Annual Korean American Day celebration, broadcast worldwide via the internet and live from the Washington, D.C. area. We are sincerely grateful to members of U.S. Congress, the Embassy of the Republic of Korea, the Korean Minister and Consul General Kwon Se-jong, the Overseas Korean Foundation, the President of the Republic of Korea, Moon Jae-in, First Lady of Maryland, Yumi Hogan, and all of the participants, supporters, and volunteers who make this event possible. This year, we are deeply saddened by the loss of so many people to the epidemic that has changed our lives. This year, it was necessary to celebrate online. However, we have an exciting program this year that includes many distinguished guests, awardees, and a cultural sampling of Korea. So enjoy the rest of the program, and please have a safe and happy New Year. 감사합니다.
I would like to introduce some of the senior advisors and officers. With us today are former presidents of KAF GW, Ms. Eun Lee-eune, Mr. In Wook-her, Michelle Kim, and I would also like to introduce the Vice President, Mr. John Yu, who is joining us via Zoom, and recognize Mr. David Kim, the Secretary. So if you can just...
Thank you for tuning in today. for the 2021 Korean American Day celebration. Though we're taking a hybrid approach to the event this year, we're just very grateful for the opportunity to get everyone together today. Now, briefly, I wanted to acknowledge that the past 12 months have been, a challenging exercise of navigation, really, unlike any other I've personally experienced in my lifetime. And I think probably most of you will share the same sentiment, comprising a seemingly endless series of episodes marked by matters of political unrest, protests on social injustice, and our attempts as a nation to preserve and protect the health of our fellow man. However, I've been inspired by the resiliency of my fellow board members and all of the supporting staff and cast, the past presidents who are standing here today, continuing to collaborate on the preparations necessary to host the event in spite of all that was happening around us this year. And I'd say these efforts and selfless acts, such as Congressman Andy Kim's late evening cleanup of the Capitol Rotunda last week, are representative of the character of our Korean American spirit, part of what we're celebrating today. So I just wanted to say a short note and thank everyone for attending, and thank all of our esteemed guests who have chosen to participate in our annual celebration. Appreciate it.
And now I would like to introduce the VIPs who will be providing some remarks. And many of them over Zoom, and some of them even live. First of all, the President of Republic of Korea, Moon Jae-in, has provided remarks via video.
미주 동포 여러분, 내외 기빈 여러분, 16도를 맞은 미주 한인의 날을 진심으로 축하합니다. 코로나의 어려움을 함께 헤쳐나가며 맞이한 날이기에 더욱 뜻깊고 소중합니다. 국민과 함께 따뜻한 안부의 인사를 드립니다. 118년 전 하와이에 첫 발을 내디딘 선조들은 어려운 살림에도 서로를 돕고 격려하며 삶의 터전을 일궈왔고 그 정신은 고스란히 오늘로 이어지고 있습니다. 102명의 작은 규모로 시작한 미주 동포 사회가 미주 한인 255만 명 시대를 연 것은 결코 우연이 아닙니다. 동포 사회는 가족처럼 이웃과 함께했고 자신의 일처럼 동포들의 도전을 응원했습니다. 성취를 이룬 개인은 공동체의 은혜를 잊지 않았으며 공동체의 역동적인 발전을 이끌었습니다. 코로나로 힘든 상황 속에서도 동포들은 어려운 이웃을 위해 손을 내밀었고 현지 병원과 복지시설, 경찰서에 마스크를 기부하며 지역사회에 희망을 전해주었습니다. 특히 2020년은 미주 한인 역사에 커다란 획을 그은 격동의 해라고 할 수 있습니다. 미국 연방의회에 4분의 한국계 의원이 동시에 진출하며 동포사회는 물론 미국과 한국 모두의 자랑이 되었습니다. 한미관계의 발전에도 큰 전기가 될 것입니다. 동포 여러분, 한 분 한 분이 참으로 자랑스럽고 고맙습니다. 미주 동포 여러분, 우리 문화가 미국의 주류 문화로 사랑받게 된 것은 우리 문화를 지키고 알려온 동포들 덕분이라 생각합니다. BTS를 비롯한 K-팝과 기생충 같은 우리 영화가 미국인들에게 큰 감동을 불러일으키고 류현진, 김강현, 고진영 선수가 한국인의 자부심을 한껏 높여주고 있습니다. 한국계 작가인 최돈미 시인과 유미리 소설가 역시 전미도서상을 나란히 수상하며 우리 문화예술의 전통과 깊이가 만만치 않음을 보여주었습니다. 미주 동포 사회가 정치, 경제, 사회, 문화 각 분야에서 모범적인 공동체로 인정받으며 한미 양국의 우정과 신뢰도 더욱 깊어졌습니다. 한미동맹은 평화와 안보는 물론 민주주의와 인권, 국제연대와 다자협력을 함께 실천하는 가치동맹으로 발전했고 앞으로도 양국은 코로나 극복과 기후변화 대응 같은 국제사회의 문제를 해결하기 위해 함께 힘을 모아 나갈 것입니다. 정부는 동포들의 안전과 2세, 3세 후손들의 민족 정체성을 지키는 일에도 최선을 다하겠습니다. 사흘 뒤인 1월 16일부터 2년간 준비한 재외국민 보호를 위한 영사조력법이 시행됩니다. 더욱 체계화되고 강화된 영사 서비스로 재외국민의 생명과 안전을 지키겠습니다. 올해는 2023년 완공을 목표로 재외동포 교육문화센터 건립을 시작하는 해입니다. 국내외 미래 세대들이 고국에 와서 민족의 자긍심을 기르고 서로를 이해하는 장이 될 것입니다. 어려움에 처한 동포들의 목소리를 귀담아 들으며 코로나를 극복하기 위한 노력에도 힘을 보태겠습니다. 생활이 어려운 저소득 동포와 실직자, 어르신 등을 돕는 취약동포 지원 사업을 통해 포스트 코로나 시대의 희망을 함께 키워가겠습니다. 미주동포 여러분, 내외 기빈 여러분, 삶의 터전이 아무리 멀리 떨어져 있어도 고국을 걱정하는 우리의 마음은 같습니다. 지난해 봄 미주동포들이 고국에 보내준 성금과 마스크는 코로나의 파고를 넘는 큰 힘이 되었습니다. 고국의 경제 발전과 민주화에 함께한 동포들의 희생과 헌신도 잊지 않겠습니다. 동포 한 분 한 분의 삶에 힘이 되는 나라가 될 수 있도록 더욱 노력하겠습니다. 오늘 미주한인의 날이 포용과 상생의 힘으로 2021년을 힘차게 여는 자리가 되길 바라며 건강한 모습으로 다시 뵐 날을 기원합니다. 미주동포 여러분, 새해 복 많이 받으십시오. 감사합니다.
Thank you. What an honor to be recognized by President Moon Jae-in. Now, we will have the Korean minister.
안녕하십니까. 주미 대한민국 대사관 권세중 총영사입니다. 오늘 여러분과 함께 미주 한인의 날 기념식에 참석하게 되어 매우 기쁩니다. 먼저 오늘 행사를 위해 애써주신 이미셸 회장님과 관계자분들께 감사를 드립니다. 작년은 코로나 바이러스로 인해 사람들 간의 물리적 관계가 심각하게 단절되는 등으로 인해서 참으로 어렵고 고단한 한 해였습니다. 그럼에도 미주동포 사회가 주축이 되어 인근 병원과 경찰서 그리고 취약계층을 위해 마스크를 지원하는 등 훈훈한 소식들이 들려와 힘이 되고 위안이 되었던 한 해였던 것 같습니다. 미주동포 사회는 1903년 하와이에 발을 디딘 이래 118주년을 맞이하였습니다. 우리 한인 동포들은 특유의 근면 성실함, 높은 교육열, 그리고 한인 사회와 지역사회 모두의 발전을 위한 헌신과 책임감으로 오늘의 발전을 이루어왔습니다. 특히 올해는 4명의 한인 의원 연방의회 입성이라는 미주 한인 역사의 영광스러운 순간을 함께 나누게 되어 감개무량합니다. 이를 가능케 한 미주동포 사회 여러분들에게 마음으로 감사의 말씀을 올립니다. 미주 동포 사회는 한미동맹의 핵심 축이며 한미동맹은 미주 동포 사회의 근간입니다. 차세대 동포가 한미동맹의 미래이기도 한 만큼 차세대를 위한 지원도 아끼지 않겠습니다. 더 나아가 요즘같이 불확실한 상황 속에서 재외동포들의 안전과 또 건강을 위해 대사관 차원에서도 더욱 노력하겠습니다. 끝으로 다시 한번 미주 한인의 날 기념식 개최를 축하드리면서 오늘 이 자리에 참석하신 분들과 온라인을 통해 함께해 주신 분들의 가정마다 건강과 행복 그리고 평화가 가득하기를 기원드립니다. 감사합니다.
We will now have Congressman Andy Kim.
안녕하세요. Thank you so much for having me here today, and it's an honor to be able to speak with all of you. I really hope that we have a chance to be able to do this in person next year, but in the meantime, I wish you well. I hope you're staying safe and healthy. I'll tell you this, I'm really honored. This is now my third Korean American Day that I've been able to celebrate as a sitting member of Congress. In 2018, I was elected at that time to be the only Korean American in Congress. And now I have some reinforcements, some others to be able to help me along the way. We now have 4 Korean Americans in Congress, which is extraordinary. And I'm just so looking forward for us to have just that larger voice and more seats at the table. But we have to keep pushing. We have to keep finding ways to be able to strengthen our voice, but also make sure that we're connecting with so many others across the United States, but also back in Korea as well. Just we can be a bridge and we can be a connector. And I think that that's something that I've reflect on today. There's no way to just avoid talking about some of the struggles that we face right now. And I know that we've gone through a lot over the last year, whether it is due to some of the discrimination and the racism that was fomented during the coronavirus crisis that I felt personally and many others felt, or when it comes to these divisions that we have within our own communities. We can be part of that solution and find ways to be able to strengthen our voice and to be able to think about what it is that we can do going forward across our country, not just in politics, but in industry and business and education and healthcare and elsewhere. And I'm really excited to see where things go from here. So while things are tough, I want us to remain hopeful. I want us to remain strong and positive about what gains we have made and the trajectory that we're on, because I really do feel like the Korean American voice is getting louder and louder, and it's something that others have to pay attention to. And I think that that will put us in the strongest place to be able to move forward. So I look forward to talking about all the progress that we make next year at the next Korean American Day. But in the meantime, I'm just grateful for a chance to be able to talk with all of you. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Congressman Kim. Not only is he a personal friend, but I think the entire nation was moved to see him clean up in the Capitol, representing the best of Koreans. And so thank you again for really showing everyone what Korean is, who we are. Next, I would like to introduce and welcome Congresswoman Young Kim, representing my hometown of Diamond Bar, California.
Thank you so much for your introduction. I'm so glad to see everyone on this call. And also, thank you, Congressman Andy Kim, for your kind remarks. I'm so glad to bring the reinforcement and join the members of the Korean Americans that are serving in the United States Congress. This is truly historic. I also want to thank everyone for having me today to celebrate the Korean American Day to commemorate the arrival of the first Korean Americans to the United States 118 years ago. And so we are gathered here to honor the great contributions that Korean Americans have made to the growth and economic success of the United States. I remember in 2003, when I was still working with my former boss, Congressman Ed Royce, the United States Congress at that time introduced the resolution to celebrate and congratulate the Korean Americans on their 100 years of immigration to the United States at the time. And since then, every year we've been able to celebrate the Korean American Day. And now we get to do this, celebrating 118 years of immigration to the United States. 제가 한인 이민자로서 연방 하원의원으로 이제는 우리 동료 한인 의원님들과 함께 미 의회에서 이렇게 미주 한인의 날을 선포하고 또 여러분들과 이 날을 함께 기념할 수 있게 돼서 너무 기쁩니다. So I want to thank the Korean American Foundation Greater Washington for organizing the celebration. I know this year's celebration looks different, but that doesn't make the celebration any less important or special. It is actually what has brought us together through the Zoom. And I think COVID has taught if there's anything that came out of COVID, it's that we've learned that we can virtually get together wherever we are all across the globe. In America, America's rich diversity is part of what makes our country great. As an immigrant from South Korea, I'm very proud of our heritage and the strong values of family, faith, and hard work that have been handed to us by previous generations. And I'm also humbled to represent such a diverse district in Southern California, my hometown of 39th District, that includes a very large, very vibrant Korean American community. And as a newly elected member of Congress, I was very proud to co-sponsor a resolution along with my Democrat colleague and also with other Korean American members that, like Andy, Marilyn, and Michelle Steele, honoring the Korean American Day and recognizing the many contributions of this community. Korean Americans have made significant contributions in all aspects of American life, and we have excelled in all fields. They continue to play a pivotal role in defining America as the land of diversity and opportunity. This year has been really historic because we have really added voice and we bring unique perspectives as Korean Americans. And I'm one of the 3 Korean American women serving in Congress. And I'm really, really excited that we can now celebrate and recognize this day with the 4 of us, and I really hope that our voices can be amplified and multiplied and see more of us continuing to serve in this capacity. So it's not only an honor to represent my 39th Congressional District in California, but serve all of you here in the United States Congress. 다시 말씀드리지만 제가 한인 이민자로서 연방의회에서 이렇게 미주 한인의 날을 다시 선포할 수 있게 돼서 기쁘고요. 또 미주 한인사회를 개척한 우리 선조들과 또 우리 미주 한인들이 미국 사회에 기여한 일들을 기억하면서 저도 미주 한인 커뮤니티가 더욱 발전하고 미국 사회에 기여할 수 있도록 여러분들과 함께 계속 노력하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman Kim. You make us very proud, as well as, of course, Congresswoman Marilyn Strickland and Michelle Steele. All of you are inspiring young Korean girls everywhere to dream big, and of course, be like our powerful Korean mothers. Next, also joining us via Zoom is the chairman of Korea Defense Veterans Association, General Vincent Brooks.
안녕하십니까? 저는 Vincent Brooks 대장입니다. Greetings everyone, I'm General Vincent Brooks and it's my honor to send greetings to you and congratulations as you celebrate and commemorate today 117 years since the initial immigration of 102 pioneers from Korea to the United States in 1903. It's terrific that this gathering is occurring, and more importantly that nationally we recognize the importance of our long relationship with Korea and Korean Americans, and all of the contributions that have been made by Korean Americans over these 117 years. I certainly appreciate the importance of Korea from my military experience, having served for about 5 years in the Republic of Korea on 2 different tours and visited many times and with so many friends, and indeed, as I shared during my change of command, that my heart still remains in and with Korea and the Korean people. But the Korean Americans are a very special combination of the 2 nations now that are reflected in the Korea and United States alliance. Korean Americans are both at the same time, from their native land of Korea to now their native land of the United States. So it's my honor to say congratulations to you, the Korean Americans, as we celebrate you and we celebrate these 117 years. There are so many contributions that have been made by Korean Americans. Many of them are very notable as we see at national level. I think of Colonel Kim Young-ok, for example, who was an officer serving in the famous 100th Battalion, 442nd Infantry in World War II, the most decorated unit in the United States Army. And he was a leader then, and his joining the Army again after having left service for the Korean War, where he became the first minority to command an infantry battalion in combat of any race or ethnicity. I think about even up to the present time with now one member of Congress who is Korean American, and soon to be, in just a matter of days, 4 Korean American members of the United States Congress. A significant achievement and a great demonstration. So with so many things that have happened, all we can say is congratulations to you. 축하드립니다. Enjoy the celebration, and my thanks to the Korean American Foundation of Greater Washington for hosting this event.
Thank you so much. And I know we have joining us Mr. Steve Lee from the KDVA, as well as the Executive Director of the Korean War Veterans Memorial Foundation, advocating for Korean War veterans. So we give special recognition to them as well. And next, providing remarks is Congresswoman Judy Chu, who is a chairwoman of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus in the United States Congress, representing all Asian Americans, including, of course, Korean Americans.
Hello, I'm Congressmember Judy Chu, and I'm so thrilled to be joining you today to celebrate the 118th anniversary of the arrival of the first Korean immigrants to the United States. I particularly want to thank you, the Korean American Foundation of Greater Washington, and your president, Michelle Lee, for inviting me to be a part of this celebration. For 16 years now, you've been making sure that this important anniversary is commemorated and the contributions of Korean Americans celebrated. So much of America's strength comes from our immigrant communities, like the Korean American community, which has grown so rapidly, and that is having a real impact on the future of our country. Just look at the recent elections where Asian American and Pacific Islander turnout surged in key battleground states, including Georgia, where we saw a 91% increase in AAPI voter turnout. In a state where Joe Biden won by just about 12,000 votes, it's clearer than ever that AAPIs have gone from being marginalized to the margin of victory. That increase in AAPIs at the polls is even changing what our government looks like. Asian Americans used to be nearly invisible in the Capitol, but I'm thrilled that this Congress, we will have a record 21 AAPI members of Congress. That includes a historic 4 Korean American members of Congress, Representatives Andy Kim from New Jersey, Marilyn Strickland from Washington, and Young Kim and Michelle Steele from California. In fact, it's hard to believe that just a little over 2 years ago, there were 0 Korean Americans in Congress, and now there are 4, the highest number in history. And Representative Strickland even made history this month when she wore a hanbok on the House floor during her swearing-in ceremony. Having more Korean Americans and AAPIs in government is vital to ensuring a seat at the table and that our needs are heard. And that is why last Congress, as the U.S. resumed negotiations with North Korea, I led our Congressional Asian Pacific Caucus in organizing a congressional forum for members of Congress to hear from Korean Americans not only about security concerns on the Korean Peninsula, but about divided families and the need to ensure family members torn apart during the Korean War can be reunited before time runs out. We are also fighting to ensure Korean Americans who are being disproportionately impacted by the coronavirus pandemic get the resources they need to have access to the vaccine and healthcare, small business loans, and protection from hate crimes targeting Asian Americans. Korean Americans have made incredible progress in the last 118 years, but I know this is still just the beginning. We will keep fighting for more representation and more progress, and with your help, I know we will continue to help all Americans thrive. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Congresswoman Grace Meng, who represents Flushing, where she is advocating and fighting for almost 500,000 Korean Americans living in the greater New York area.
안녕하세요. I'm Congresswoman Grace Meng from Queens, New York. I'm honored to join you this year virtually to celebrate Korean American Day. I want to thank Michelle Lee of the Korean American Foundation of Greater Washington for inviting me to share a few words. I would also like to recognize my distinguished congressional colleagues for their leadership and work on behalf of the Korean American community. 118 years ago, Koreans first arrived in this country and worked tirelessly to give their children and grandchildren a better future. Historic gains have been made since then as Korean Americans have risen to prominent positions across American society. From restaurants to NASA and from Congress to Hollywood, Korean Americans are leaders in different industries and roles. They are reimagining what we eat and who we view on the big screen, and they are also represented in government. The new 117th Congress just kicked off, and I was pleased to be joined by 3 new Korean American congresswomen, increasing the number to 4 Korean American members of Congress. This is a breakthrough for the country and the Korean American community, which I am sure will inspire many young people to seek higher office. In Congress, my focus has been on ensuring Korean Americans with families in North Korea have a chance at seeing their loved ones. Currently, they are unable to participate in inter-Korean family reunions. To remedy this, I introduced the Divided Families Reunification Act, which would require State Department to prioritize this urgent issue. My bill passed the House last Congress, and I hope to continue to push it across the finish line this Congress. Again, happy Korean American Day. I wish everyone a wonderful celebration, and please continue to stay safe and healthy. 축하합니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you, Congresswoman Meng. And now, our first ever Korean First Lady, Maryland's very own Yumi Hogan.
Good evening. I'm Yumi Hogan, the First Lady of Maryland. Congratulations to the Korean American Foundation of Greater Washington for hosting the 16th Annual Korean American Day event virtually. I understand all of wish to see each other in person, but I applaud you for saving lives for celebrating this at home. I would like to congratulate Michelle Lee on becoming the new president of the Korean American Foundation of Greater Washington. Also, I wanted to recognize the past President Michelle Kim for having done a wonderful job for many years. Your boldest leadership is appreciated as well. Since 1903, Koreans have moved to the United States, and this year makes the 118th year. As a Korean Americans, including myself, the first generation has made it sacrifice overcoming challenges. As a result, our children and the next generations are given a better future and opportunities, learning our culture and heritage. Especially our Korean American daughters and son made history this year. Young Kim, Michelle Steele, Marion Strick, and Andy Kim are elected to USA Congress. We are so proud of them, and I am proud that our community sends them to Washington, D.C. From now on, with pride as a Korean American, we will take a step forward, practice our rights, and register to vote to raise our voice and serve our neighbors. It will make our community stronger and help us keep our legacy alive. This celebration is a day to unite and to honor all Korean Americans. Thank you for participating in today's virtual celebration. Please keep up the good work and enjoy connecting with the other Korean Americans. Stay healthy, safe, and strong. Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, First Lady Hogan. She's not only beautiful, but she has the greatest heart for the Korean War veterans. And next, Congressman Jerry Connolly, representing the Greater Washington or Virginia's Korean American community.
안녕하세요. I'm Congressman Jerry Connolly, and I'm proud to represent Virginia's 11th Congressional District in the U.S. House of Representatives. And it's my honor to commend the Korean American Foundation of Greater Washington on your 16th Annual Korean American Day celebration. This year, we get to celebrate the 118th anniversary of the arrival of the first Korean immigrants to the United States. Celebrating the impact that Korean Americans have had on our nation cannot be understated. Immigrants have made monumental contributions to our society and make our nation what it is. In my congressional district, 1 in 4 residents are foreign-born, and nearly half are originally from Asia. Also, my congressional district is home to the largest number of Asian Americans and owned businesses in both the National Capital Region and the Commonwealth of Virginia. I'm proud of that. In Congress, I sit in the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and within this, I'm co-chair of the Korea Caucus, which works to strengthen diplomatic cooperation and bilateral ties between our two great countries. I look forward to the continued work and partnership to achieve better success and reaching common goals. It's been a difficult year, but we're going to get through this, and I look forward to hope and aspiration in 2021. Again, thank you to the Korean American Foundation of Greater Washington for everything you do and for your commitment to the greater community and to the Korean American interests in that community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, Congressman Mike Kelly, one of the co-chairs of the Korea Caucus.
I'd like to congratulate all of you on the Korean American Day celebration. You know, my first experience with Korea actually was in my private sector life, and that's where I became a Hyundai dealer and a Kia dealer. And I've been back and forth to the Republic several times. You know, I think the one thing that when we look at Korea and America, what a wonderful relationship we have. You know, we've died for each other to support our freedoms and our liberties. You can't go any further than that in that type of an affiliation and that type of a friendship. Look, you know, it's been over 100 years ago when the first Koreans immigrated to the United States. Now there's over 2 million Korean Americans. It's an incredible contributions that they make to our society and everyday American values. That's just who we are. We are truly brothers in arms. We've died for each other, and we celebrate this wonderful, wonderful relationship we have. So, you know, when I look at the Korean American Foundation, I say, you know what? I wish I could be there with you in person. We can't do it this year, but with my friends and my colleagues on the Korean Caucus, I'm really looking forward to working with you in the future. It's a wonderful relationship. It's one we can never turn away from, and it's one we're always going to be committed to. God bless. Thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you so much to everyone who provided remarks. Now, I am extremely proud to introduce a young leader in our community. His name is Andrew Huang. He's a student at Johns Hopkins University, and he will relate his experience as the next generation leader of Korean Americans.
Thank you, Hannah, for the introduction, and thank you to the Korean American Foundation for inviting me here today. It's really wonderful to be here today and to see so many esteemed individuals, such as our own very own congressman and congresswoman. My name is Andrew Huang, and it's an honor to be here today and to speak as a 1.5 generation Korean American on a day that celebrates my heritage and identity and that of thousands of Korean Americans out there as well. It's been 20 years since I've moved to the United States in 2001, and while my foundations have become well-rooted in the States over time, my Korean heritage has played a very critical role in my life to this day. But up until recent times, you know, this wasn't always the case. There were many periods throughout my lifetime when my American and my Korean identities existed separately, distinct and foreign to one another. And depending on the group of people I was around, it was very hard to acknowledge and embrace the counterpart of my identity. If I was around some friends of a different ethnicity, different race, I would oftentimes hide the Korean side of me and in some way be hesitant and embarrassed when that side of me came about into the light. And similar situations would arise when I would be around Korean individuals like my family or my church members, for example. And my ignorance and lack of knowledge of some aspect of Korean culture or the Korean language would become evident. And this feeling of disconnect from both sides of the table was a feeling that left me personally very uncomfortable and unfulfilled for years. But this is not a story or a situation that is solely unique to myself. I see many Korean Americans, even in my social circle, who similarly struggle to embody their Korean and American identities together, just as I was unable to do so as well for years. I'm positive many of my fellow Korean Americans, especially those of the younger generation, have or will have experienced similar feelings of disconnect at one point in their lifetime. But to these individuals, I like to say this: we live in unique times and in a very unique country where diversity is so cherished, and having an identity that encompasses a multitude of backgrounds is not uncommon. Every individual has a unique story or background that should be illuminated, not hidden. So I encourage Korean American individuals who are here with us today, and to the rest of the community, to not partition your Korean and American identities into two separate entities, but rather to unite them as one. And I'd like to especially emphasize this to my generation and to the future generations of Korean Americans, because we personally are very responsible for passing down the efforts, the history, and the legacy of past generations of Korean Americans. So I urge every single Korean American here with us today and to the rest of the community to find your true color as a Korean American individual. And I promise you that you will be a much more fulfilled person by embracing your unique and colorful identity. Thank you. Congratulations to our Korean American community. And I hope everybody here with us today can enjoy the rest of the program and celebrate the 16th annual Korean American Day.
Thank you, Andrew. You're absolutely correct. We are so grateful that there were so many Korean Americans who paved the road for people like you to lead it. And here we are pleased to recognize two community leaders in a pre-recorded video, followed by a presentation of awards by the event chair, Mr. Albert Kim.
Their outstanding contribution to Korean American community. The first award goes to 황영균 선생님, William 원경환. I'm going to read a plaque for Distinguished Leadership Award 2021 in recognition of his visionary leadership and contribution to the Korean American community of the Greater Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. Second award goes to Eunhae Lee, Outstanding Community Service for 2021. For over 30 years of outstanding service to the Korean American community of the Greater Washington of D.C. and metropolitan area. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kim, and congratulations to our awardees. And I can tell you personally, vouch for their well-deserved award for their tireless leadership to the Washington community. And please join us now for a violin and piano rendition of two Korean songs by Dr. Hae-jin Kim. Dr. Kim graduated with a Doctor of Music degree from Catholic University of America and is an active musician, conductor, and teacher. Thank you. so much, Dr. Kim. I would like to now introduce Mr. Myung-Won Kwon and the art of calligraphy. Mr. Kwon is a nationally and internationally acclaimed artist with collections at the Library of Congress, the Smithsonian, and many others. Korean traditional dress called hanbok will be discussed and displayed live with designer Ms. Kyung-eun Kim. Ms. Kim is a professional designer and scholar of hanbok who designed for the office of the President of South Korea. She immigrated to the United States and established the Insadong Hanbok Centers in Maryland and Virginia. Welcome, Ms. Kim.
안녕하십니까. 미주 한인 축전 행사에 참여하게 되어서 영광으로 생각합니다. 저는 33년간 한복 디자이너로 활동하고 있는 김경은입니다. 제가 오늘 여러분들께 저희 전통 한복을 소개할 수 있게 되어서 영광으로 생각합니다. 제가 먼저 소개해드릴 한복은 한국의 전통 홀레복입니다. 전통 홀레복을 여자 한복은 화롯이라고 얘기하고 남자 한복은 관복이라고 불려집니다. 여자 한복에는 매화, 불로초, 연꽃 등 이 부부의 행복과 장수를 상징하는 문양들이 수놓아져 있고요. 머리에는 화관을 쓰게 되어 있고 신랑은 머리에 관모를 쓰게 되어 있습니다. 이 한복들이 저희 전통적인 한복인데요. 저희가 여러분들께 소개할 수 있어서 기쁘고요. 그 다음에 제가 두 번째로 소개해드리고 싶은 한복은 전통 한복의 색감과 디자인에서 떠나서 감각의 파스텔 톤으로 재해석해서 디자인하게 된 홀레복입니다. 이 홀레복들은 요즘 트렌드에 맞게 디자인이 되어 있는데요. 이것들이 색감은 다르지만 모두 이 부부의 행복과 또한 전통 홀레복으로서의 가치와 디자인은 가지고 있기 때문에 여러분들께 더 환영받을 수 있는 디자인이 될 수도 있다고 생각합니다. 감사합니다.
감사합니다. 의원님 중에 메릴린 스트리클랜 의원님께서 국회의사당에서 처음으로 이렇게 우리나라의 전통 한복을 선보여 주셨는데요. 전 너무나 감동을 받고 많은 미국에 계신 한인분들께서도 감동을 받으셨을 거라고 생각합니다. 한복 디자이너신 김성재님께서는 어떤 심정이셨는지 좀 얘기해 주세요.
한복은 우리들의 전통을 가지고 있으면서도 또한 저희의 정체성을 드러낼 수 있는 방법 중에 하나라고 생각을 하고요. 저희가 미국에서 살고 있지만 한복을 입음으로써 저희 정체성을 미국에서 더 굳게 가질 수 있는 표현 방법 중에 하나라고 생각하고 또한 이 한복이 저희 후대들에게는 외면받지 않는 한복으로 소개되기 위해서 한복도 발전을 하고 진화되어야 된다고 생각을 합니다. 그래서 그것들을 위해서 노력하고 있습니다.
예, 감사합니다. 저도 한복을 너무 개인적으로 좋아하는데 솔직히 입기가 어렵고 입을 이 날들이 많이 없어서 고민이 많은데 저 그 의원님도 그렇고 디자이너님께서도 감동을 주셔서 저희가 앞으로 저희 전통 옷을 더 많이 입을 수 있게 노력하겠습니다. 저희도 Thank you so much, Ms. Kim, and the Hanbok Advancement Center in Korea has provided a video of seasonal hanbok for us to enjoy. Yes, our traditional clothes are so beautiful. And not hanbok, but hanok, traditional Korean houses, are also very beautiful. And so the CEO of Hanok magazine, Mr. Kyungchul Park, has provided a video of the traditional Hanok Korean house adapted to modern living standards. Thank you very much, Mr. Park. We're now very pleased to present 3 Korean traditional dances by the Changwon City South Korea Dance Company under the direction of Sang Ah-oh.
바꾸나 치고 놀아보세!
enjoyed the 3 traditional Korean dances, 뻐꾹춤, 부채춤, 쟁강춤. And finally, I would like to introduce Dr. David Kim, Secretary of Korean American Foundation of Greater Washington, to provide closing remarks.
Good evening and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to sincerely thank all of you for joining us for the 16th annual Korean American Day celebration. I sincerely thank the Embassy of the Republic of Korea and the Overseas Koreans Foundation for providing generous support for this event. I also thank to distinguished congresspersons, guests, artists, performers, awardees, sponsors, guests from Korea. Today's celebration is an example for many countries to see how multi-ethnic cultures are cultivated, intertwined, and thriving. Our Korean brothers and sisters work diligently in various fields that the American society needs. We are able to draw upon and make connections with the many strengths and resources of our motherland, Korea, and as well as the American society. This is a good example of how we can serve as a bridge between these 2 nations. With such a sense of a mission, KAF GW, the Korean American Foundation Greater Washington, will continue to put forth effort for our beloved homeland Korea, as well as continue to work for the prosperity of America, the home of our lives, the future of our generations to come. Lastly, I want to thank our technical team who have worked so hard to make this event a success. We look forward to holding the 17th annual Korean American Day celebration next year at the Reban Congressional Office building as usual, and we also look forward to seeing all of you as well. Please be safe and have a great 2021 year. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much again, Mr. Kim. And as he said, thank you so much to the Korean Embassy and the Overseas Korea Foundation, and of course all the members of Congress. 오늘 함께 해주신 모든 의원님들, 기빈님들, 그리고 문재인 대통령님과 영사관, 그리고 해외 동포재단께 감사드리고요. 무엇보다 저희 미국에서 저희 한인들이 이렇게 이민 와서 잘 있을 수 있게 해주신 또 참전 용사님들께도 너무나 감사드립니다. I do want to especially acknowledge the Korean War veterans who sacrificed for us so that all of us could be here to enjoy the freedom and prosperity. And so I wish all of you a wonderful and happy Korean American Day and safe 2021.